rise. Court is now in session.
First up, we take you inside the 6th Judicial Court in Pasco County, Florida. The defendant is Dale Massad, the former mayor of Port Richey, Florida. He's pled guilty to aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer with a firearm, weapons charges, and resisting arrest. 2 years earlier, Massad was at home with his girlfriend when a SWAT unit arrived to execute a warrant for practicing medicine without a license. The charges coming at the end of a 4-month investigation.
Sheriff's office, search warrant, come to the door!
The 70-year-old former mayor is also a former doctor, having had his license revoked back in 1992. Massad was also known to own several guns, so the officers were on high alert.
Sheriff's office, search warrant, come to the door!
After they identified themselves multiple times, there was still no sign of Massad. So the officers decided it was time to go in.
Sheriff's office, search warrant! Sheriff's office, search warrant, come to the door! Sheriff's office, search warrant, come to the door! Sheriff's office.
Massad fired 2 shots at the officers, who quickly responded. After a few minutes, officers finally located Massad.
Dale, put that gun down. Put the gun down and come down the stairs.
Walk toward me, guys. Come on, nice and easy. Take the light off him for a second. All right, walk toward my voice, guys. I'm right here.
Over here. Right here.
Walk toward me. Walk toward me. Take your time, but walk toward me.
Massad and his girlfriend surrendered and were taken into custody.
You have a seat right here on the back of the bus? Sit down.
Hurting me, guys. Why don't you knock on the door and let us know what's happening?
Massad was initially charged with 5 counts of attempted homicide and, if found guilty, could have spent the rest of his life in prison. His attorney tried to have the case dismissed, claiming Massad was standing his ground when the police arrived. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit Florida, many court cases were delayed. So the state offered Massad a deal: plead guilty to lesser charges and serve 3 years in prison plus 10 years probation. Massad accepted the deal, but at his sentencing before Judge Mary Hansel, a number of officers, including Sergeant Billy Lindsay, spoke out about the terrifying events of that night.
I started suffering from anxiety and stress caused by it. To have to go home and tell my family after 20 years in law enforcement that I almost died because a politician decided that it was more important to shoot the first cop that came to arrest him than to lawfully surrender.
Sergeant Lindsay also expressed his feelings about the plea deal that was offered by the state.
The fact that we're here entertaining a plea deal in a case where the defendant is accused of intentionally shooting a firearm at law enforcement officers during the execution of a search warrant is disgusting. Mr. Massad has clearly exploited the worst flaw in the criminal justice system, and that's that money and political influence buys you freedom if you're rich. He is a true psychopath that lacks guilt, remorse, empathy. He's dishonest, he's a narcissist, and he has no conscience.
And Sergeant Lindsay isn't the only one who believes Massad received a cushy deal. Judge Hansel offers a few words of her own.
For the record, I just want to make sure that it's clear that this was a plea agreement and the court had nothing to do with this, because if I did, I have to agree with the sergeant that Mr. Massad is getting quite a deal.
Massad was sentenced to 3 years in prison with credit for 2 years' time served while awaiting trial, plus 10 years probation. As far as the original charge of practicing medicine without a license, as part of the plea deal, he received a 3-year sentence, which will run concurrently with the assault sentence.
Next, we go to Omaha, Nebraska.
for the sentencing of former doctor Anthony Garcia, the man responsible for a string of murders that have become known as the Creighton Killings. In 2008, Garcia went to the home of his ex-boss, Dr. William Hunter, seeking revenge against the man who fired him from his Creighton University residency 7 years earlier. There, Garcia stabbed and killed both the doctor's 11-year-old son, Thomas, and housekeeper Shirley Sherman. The case went unsolved until 2013, when Garcia returned to Omaha, this time killing Dr. Roger Brumbach, another former Creighton employer, as well as his wife, Mary. Garcia was charged with 4 counts of murder and multiple weapons charges, and in 2016, found guilty on all charges. Prosecutors in his case are seeking the maximum penalty for Garcia, death.
State of Nebraska versus Anthony Garcia.
2 years later, as Garcia appears before a panel of judges to learn his sentence, the man is asleep, or at least pretending to be asleep, even while several family members deliver heartfelt impact statements to the court.
We've heard a lot from the press, especially about after today, we'll finally get closure. When you have a loved one taken from you in such a vicious, inhumane manner, that'll never happen.
Young child of 11 3/4 years should never have to innocently lose his life in a fit of anger.
I'm left with constant images from courtroom photos of my mom laying there in a pool of her own blood with an 8-inch butcher knife hanging out her neck. I can't get those images ever out of my head.
While Garcia still looks as if he's napping, District Judge Rick Schreiner addresses the court.
The defendant traveled from his home in Indiana to Omaha, Nebraska to commit 4 murders on 2 separate occasions. Those facts suggest lengthy premeditation and an exceptionally depraved mentality. The defendant had 5 years to reflect on the gruesomeness of the first 2 murders before he returned to Omaha to commit 2 more murders. He had no remorse after the first 2 murders. In fact, he bragged about them.
As the judge moves to sentence him, Garcia remains still.
The defendant now stands convicted of 4 murders.
Until finally, he shows some slight movement.
The panel finds that a sentence of death is not excessive. It is therefore ordered, as to count 1, murder in the first degree, that a sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant, Anthony Garcia.
Not even a sentence of death can wake the slumbering Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, you are remanded to the custody of the Douglas County Sheriff for execution of this sentence.
Altogether, Garcia receives 136 years for the weapons charges and a spot on death row at the Tecumseh State Correctional Facility.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Next up, we head to a traffic court proceeding in Sacramento, California. The court clerk is waiting on the defendant, Scott Green, who's appearing today for speeding and license tag violations.
Okay.
There he is.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Green?
Yes.
Yes, defendant Green is also Dr. Scott Green, a plastic surgeon.
Hi. Are you available for trial? It kind of looks like you're in an operating room right now.
I am, sir. I'm in the operating room. Yes, I'm available for trial. Go right ahead.
Okay, let me just briefly advise you that the proceedings right now, they are being live streamed on YouTube. That's because traffic trials are required by law to be open to the public. Since we're limiting physical access to the courtroom right now, that's how we're making them open to the public, okay?
Okay.
Streaming or not, Dr. Green is ready to go. The good doctor's sworn in and continues to multitask as he waits for Court Commissioner Gary Link to get things started.
So, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Officer Monroe, Mr. Green. So, unless I'm mistaken, I'm seeing a defendant that's in the middle of an operating room, appearing to be actively engaged in providing services to a patient. Is that correct, Mr. Green?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Link seems a bit concerned about Dr. Green's setting and his ability to continue the hearing while performing a facelift on a patient.
I do not feel comfortable for the welfare of a patient if you're in the process of operating that I would put on a trial, notwithstanding the fact that the officer's here today.
Sir, I have another surgeon right here who's doing the surgery with me, so I can stand here and allow them to do the surgery also.
not at all. I don't think so. I don't think that's appropriate. I think I'm going to come up with a different date when you're not actively involved or participating in attending to the needs of a patient.
Looks like Dr. Green's plan isn't going over so well with the court.
I apologize, Your Honor, to the court. Sometimes surgery doesn't always go as
The court,
as
you know,
efficiently as we
it
hope.
happens. We want to keep people healthy. We want to keep them alive. That's important. Thank you. Okay, you're both free to go now.
Although the Zoom received plenty of attention from the media, the original court business was resolved when Dr. Green paid his fines just a few days later.